I didn't know the first orange sticker was a price tag on my house. It looked like paper yelling about immediate code compliance, but it might as well have said, "You leave, someone richer arrives." A week later, a man who smiled at our HOA picnic put a hand on my shoulder and said he could take the burden off our hands for cash. By the time I realized the inspector's late-night photos and the anonymous complaints were the same pipeline, 3 neighbors were gone and my wife was asking if we should just consider the offer. I'm Mason, 37, project analyst at a health tech company in Minneapolis. We bought our little Rambler on 33rd Avenue because it was boring in a good way, maple out front, a garage that wheezed shut like an old man, a kitchen that still believed in laminate. We thought boring meant safe. I still like boring. It's predictable. You can plan around it. This story is what happens when boring gets hunted. The sticker showed up on a Thursday. Bright orange, slapped crooked on the front door while I was at work and Carla was on a late shift at the clinic. Exterior deterioration, potential moisture intrusion. We'd painted last summer. The person who wrote that had a strong opinion about adjectives and a weak opinion about our siding. There was a date and a case number and a warning that failure to fix could result in fines. That night, in the light over our kitchen sink, Carla held the paper like it might bite. "Do we have a leak?" she asked. "If we do, the maple ate it," I said. "Our gutters cried once. I fixed them. We don't have intrusion. We have weather." We scheduled an inspection. The city booked us for 2 weeks out. 2 days later, a second notice appeared, this time from the HOA about yard standards, with a photo of my recycling bin at a sinful angle and grass that looked like every other lawn on the block. "Somebody's got a hobby," I said. Carla didn't laugh. She'd been living with 2 spreadsheets taped to her fridge for a month, labeled budget and emergency. One was numbers, one was breathing. "What if we just get in front of it?" she said, scanning the notice. "Hire someone. Fix whatever they want fixed." "Sure," I said, "if we figure out what whatever is." Sunday, the HOA held the kind of picnic that could pass for community if you didn't look too long at the smiles. There was a folding table with lemonade and a playlist that believed in the 90s. Kids on bikes raced the block. The HOA president, Melissa, wore a visor that must have had a license. Her husband, Dan, manned the grill like he was auditioning for a neighborhood watch commercial. A new guy hovered near the food line, tan, white button down, the kind of jaw that makes business cards heavier. He introduced himself as Tate. "Tate handles recruiting and talent for a contractor group," Melissa said, hand light on his elbow. "They're doing great work up in St. Louis Park. He's here to meet folks." Tate had a handshake like a sales pitch. "If you ever need a bid," he said, already sliding a card toward me, "my guys can be there tomorrow." "We're fine," I said too quickly. Carla covered it with charm. "We might call," she said. "We got a notice about the siding." Tate nodded like he already knew. "They're being strict this year," he said. "Crackdown keeps property values strong. I'm happy to take a look." I pocketed the card, but felt like I'd just accepted a seed I didn't want to plant. The first real crack showed up on our doorbell video at 11:47 p.m. Monday night, our camera catches the sidewalk and a slice of street. At the edge of the frame, a man in a city windbreaker snapped photos of our siding, our porch, our gutter. Flash! Flash! He didn't knock. He didn't look around. He kept the hood up like the weather required secrecy. At 11:58, he took a picture of our recycling bin and wrote something in his notebook, even though the next pickup wasn't for 3 days and everyone on our block had their bins out, because this is a city and we all recycle like we're being graded. The next morning, I filed that video in a folder called House, because I'm the kind of person who names folders as if that keeps chaos from using our front steps. A notice hit my email at 1:08 p.m. Follow-up, failure to correct yard standards. Additional fines may apply. "Someone is playing speed chess with our patience," I said to Carla on the phone. "Please just fix whatever it is," she said, voice small. "I can't do this game on top of work." "I will," I said, "but I'm also going to find out who thinks night photography is a civic duty." When the city inspector finally came, he showed up in daylight like a decent person. He was new, younger than the guy in the video. Badge, clipboard, polite smile. "Officer Randall," he said, "you requested reinspection." "I also recorded someone photographing our home at midnight in a city jacket," I said, "before we got the second notice. Is that normal?" He frowned the way people do when a question invites trouble. "We don't do off-hour exterior checks unless there's a complaint." "So, anonymous complaints get midnight visits now," I said. If it's egregious, he said, non-committal, our system shows an external complaint with photos. We verify, write what we see. It's how our process flows. He took a lap around the house. He poked a spot under the eaves with a screwdriver like a doctor testing a knee. "You've got some soft wood here," he said. "Not structural. A patch job will do. Replace a couple boards. Reseal the seam." "That's a far cry from intrusion," I said. He didn't argue. He wrote a note. "Fix in 30 days, he said. "Send me the receipt. We'll close it out." By lunch, 3 contractors had left flyers wedged into our door. I recognized one logo from the card in my pocket. Tate's Company. I didn't call. I hired a small shop 2 streets over. They came, replaced the boards, charged less than the fine would have been, and did the kind of work that makes you want to bake someone a pie. I emailed the receipt to Officer Randall with a thank you. He closed the case. 2 days later, a new sticker. This one about our back fence being out of alignment and not to code. Our fence had been here 20 years. It leaned like a man in a photo trying to get out of the frame, but it didn't threaten anything except my plans for Saturday. "Who hates us?" Carla asked, not joking. "The same person who loves scanners," I said, holding the notice up to the kitchen light. The case number was 1 digit off from the last one, as if someone had created it in a hurry and copy-pasted a template. The file attachment, because we get everything digital too, had a metadata line that said the photo had been taken at 5:04 a.m. on a date the sun rose at 5,000 of. Our backyard is not a flashlight ad. Something was wrong. I sent the metadata screenshot to Randall. I sent a doorbell clip of the midnight photographer. I asked for a copy of the anonymous complaint and whatever file format their system uses for uploads. He replied with calm words and a request. "Submit a data request," he wrote, including the link and the form number. "We're not ignoring you. There's a process." I filled the request before my coffee cooled. The city is slow unless something catches fire in a meeting room. This caught no fire. The estimate said 10 business days. On day 3, we got a letter in an actual envelope like a relic. The return address said North Cedar Holdings, LLC. The letter said, in polite, practiced words, that they'd noticed the increased compliance burdens on our property and wanted to make us a no-contingency cash offer for a painless closing in 14 days. A phone number, a first name, Tate. "I'm going to break his card in half," I said, and Carla put a hand on my arm. "Let me say the part you don't want to hear," she said. "What if we took the easy out? We're tired, Mace. We both work like the building is on fire. Every week there's a new sticker. We can start over somewhere quieter." "You want to sell our house to the guy who pointed a camera at our porch at midnight," I said. "No," she said quickly. "I want to not feel like we're one notice away from losing an argument with a system that doesn't know our names." I stopped. I looked at her face. She's the strongest person I know, and the system had taught her to ask for mercy. I put the letter on the counter like you put a spider in a cup and carry it to the door. "Give me time," I said. "Let me run my kind of play." "What's your kind?" she asked, tired and curious, and maybe a little hopeful. "Boring," I said. "Document, submit, escalate. If I'm wrong, I'll be wrong in neat paragraphs." I mapped our block with a pen, not just in my head, on paper. 8 houses along 33rd, 6 on our cross street. In the last 6 months, 3 had sold fast to cash buyers. No signs, just quiet moves. The old man on the corner, Mr. Nunez, who used to tell me stories about the Metrodome while he watered the strip of earth by his mailbox, had left without a goodbye. I knocked on his old door. A contractor inside told me I couldn't be here without a hard hat. His t-shirt had the North Cedar logo. "We close and renovate," he said, as if I'd asked why air exists. I filed a second data request, broader. Anonymous complaints by parcel ID for our block for the last year. I asked for the uploader IPs. I asked for the names of the inspectors on the cases. I asked for the exact timestamps. This time, the estimate said 15 days. Government time multiplies if you ask good questions. On day 6, we got invited to an information meeting in the HOA's clubhouse. Melissa at the front, visor like a crown. Dan in the back, arms folded. A whiteboard with the words "Pride in or Properties" underlined twice. 17 people in folding chairs, including me and Carla. I'd brought a notebook and a face I use at work when a vendor promises a miracle. Melissa talked about standards. She talked about keeping our block competitive. She said nothing about North Cedar Holdings, so Tate did it for her. He stood up from a chair near the snack table like it had ejected him. Some of you have expressed frustration, he said, his voice measured, warm. My team wants to be part of the solution. We can offer fair cash to families who feel overwhelmed by new guidelines. No judgment, no inspections before closing, just relief. A woman 2 rows ahead of me raised her hand. Are you the same people leaving notes about people's lawns and fences? She asked. Because I find it odd that criticism and cash share a font. Tate smiled like a teacher who enjoyed a good question. We don't have anything to do with code enforcement, he said. We don't tell the city what to do. We respond to market realities. Market realities, I said, louder than I meant to. Like anonymous 1 a.m., complaints with photos that don't match the sunrise, like cash offers that arrive the day after fines. Melissa held up a hand. Let's stay constructive, she said. Constructive would be you telling us if North Cedar is a vendors of the HOA, I said. Did we hire them, or did we just marry them without telling our spouses? Murmurs. Dan stood like his chair had broken. That's enough, he said. We're trying to keep blight from creeping in. If you don't like it, the city has plenty of blocks where nobody cares. The city also has a data portal, I said, and a state attorney general who likes patterns. Carla touched my knee. It wasn't a warning, it was ballast. After the meeting, I pretended to throw out a cup and drifted near the snack table. Tate took a call just outside the open door. His voice carried. Cedar's good on 33rd, he said. We'll get 5 on that strip, 6 after the fence notice lands. Tell R to keep the schedule. It's working. R, no name, just an initial like a secret handshake. I took out my phone and typed the sentence into the Notes app because memory is a bully and you should teach it manners. The city sent the first batch of records on a Tuesday. PDF tables that would have been a nightmare for anyone who didn't like puzzles. I printed them, spread them across our table, and drew lines. Our parcel ID, our complaints. The uploader fields were not names but IPs and device types. One IP repeated across 4 properties. The device types were smartphones, model strings like iPhone 113004. The timestamps lived in the land of Z, which means UTC, which means UTC, which means if you don't do the math, you'll convince yourself ghosts file in the night. I did the math. The shots were still wrong. The complaints were time-stamped before the photos were taken. One inspector name repeated 2, Randall's. But Randall had been decent. He'd come in daylight. He'd given me a sane fix. I bounced between wanting to exonerate him and wanting to pin something on somebody. That's not justice, that's thirst. The second batch of records took longer and arrived messier. Email headers of complaints forwarded to the city account. 2 were from a web form with no return address. One was from a Gmail that was almost a company name, like someone had named a shell and gotten bored halfway through, Cedar Community Help Desk at something. The forwarded path showed the original device had attached live photos, Apple's little animation format. Live photos carry a short video. When the city converted them to stills, they kept the original .mov in a hidden bundle. They'd included the whole bundle by mistake. I extracted the .mov. It was 2 seconds long. It showed our fence in gray pre-dawn and a whisper of someone's reflection in the window. Not a face. A logo on a jacket. The city crest? No. A crest that wanted to be a city crest when it grew up. I froze the frame at the microsecond where the badge shape caught a streetlight. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I took the image to my neighbor Marla, who runs a print shop and has opinions about everything. Is this real? I asked. Or am I tired? She leaned in, squinted, and then laughed once, low. That's no city jacket, she said. That's a costume. Look at the font on the embroidery. The city contracts one vendor. They stitch right. This looks like a Halloween version printed from a website that says municipal style. How do you know that? I asked. I make shirts for the city softball league, she said. Good vendors don't drink the letter E for breakfast. I sent the live photo and the extract to Randall and to Sheila at Compliance, who I only knew by phone because she handles complaints made through the city's public integrity portal. I included an apology for the volume and an explanation. If someone costumed your badge, they're not complaining, I wrote. They're clearing. Sheila called. We opened an inquiry, she said. We'll handle city staff. Your HOA is its own universe, but we can thread the needle if any of our folks are tied in. My HOA president holds a gavel like a wand and invites a developer to the party like it's a bake sale, I said. I can come to a meeting and be reasonable. I can't be quiet. Then don't, she said. Just don't get arrested. I did one more thing I'm proud of in a small, nerdy way. I took one of North Cedar's glossy mailers. They'd left 3 and peeled back the return label where it overlapped the corner. The layer beneath was a different mailer, same size, older date. Whoever was printing these was reusing unsent stock by pasting new labels on the same stack. I held the edges to the light and saw a faint outline of a box number. Post office box? The second number was a 4. The third looked like a 3. I took the mailers to the post office and asked a clerk I know from Saturday mornings if a box under Cedar's name existed at this branch. She can't tell me that. I know. I asked anyway. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said, "We've had a problem with someone picking up from a box that's not theirs." I put an Apple AirTag in an envelope with a fake name and a copy of the North Cedar letter. I wrote, "Return to sender" on the outside and dropped it in the outgoing bin at the branch next to the Cedar Box Bank. It was childish. It was reckless. It worked. That evening, my phone pinged. The tag moved from the post office to a strip mall on Nicollet where, according to the internet, there is a virtual office provider and a co-working space with glass conference rooms that look like ambitions. The AirTag stopped in a unit labeled Cedar Community Services. I screenshotted everything, then removed the tag from my account so I'd stop staring at dots. I did not confront Tate. I went home and showed Carla the path. She sat on a stool at our counter and read the dots like a prayer. "I feel like I should have seen this," she said. "You were busy keeping us alive," I said. At the next HOA board meeting, I signed up to speak in the 5-minute public comment section because my mother raised me to use the microphone even when your hands shake. The room smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. Melissa's visor held its position, Dan's arms held their fold, and Tate wore a smile he might have ironed. "Our neighborhood has seen a spike in complaints, fines, and fast cash offers," I said, standing at the podium with my notes. "I've gathered public records, videos, and mailers tying those 3 things to one another. I'll hand copies to the board and to anyone else who wants them. This isn't about how you feel about my lawn, it's about how we feel about fairness." "Sir," Melissa said, eyes hard, "this isn't a court." "Then it's a church," I said, and unconfessing. I didn't trust my neighbors enough to assume someone would care. That's on me. Here's the rest. I laid out the timeline. Midnight photos. Wrong timestamps. Live photo logo. The fake crest. The letter arriving on the day a fine doubled. The AirTag that wrote a mailer to a mailbox in a co-working space. The audio from the clubhouse where Tate said, "Tell R to keep the schedule." I did not say who's R. I let the letter R sit there like a hook catching a fish I couldn't see yet. "I've sent all of this to the city," I said. "They'll handle their people. I'm asking our board to handle what's yours. If North Cedar is a vendor, fire them. If they're not, stop giving this room to someone whose mail follows a script and whose solutions cost us our neighbors." A man in the 3rd row stood. He was quiet, with the kind of quiet that gets heavy when ignored. "I got 3 notices in 3 weeks, he said. "I took their cash because I didn't have time to fight a machine. I didn't want to leave. I just didn't want to be tired." Murmurs became words. Another neighbor spoke. Then another. Someone cried behind me and used the heel of their hand like they'd practiced. Melissa tried to bang the gavel, but the room changed shape. Sheila from the city walked in mid-sentence and stood at the back with another woman wearing a badge that wasn't a costume. I hadn't invited them to make a scene. I'd sent them the notice as a courtesy. They came for their own reasons. "We're here to talk later to board members," Sheila said, after getting permission to address the room, which she asked for and received because she understands rooms. "We have an open inquiry. We're not here to make arrests. We're here to listen and make sure our processes weren't used as a crowbar. Please don't speculate about individuals. Do share your experiences." Tate's smile tried to leave his face and got stuck. "We're here in good faith," he said, voice thinner. "If we've misread the room, we will adjust." "Start by leaving it," someone said from the back. The board didn't vote that night. Boards don't. They continued. They would collect information. They would review vendor relationships. They would communicate updates. I didn't care about their nouns. I cared about what happened on Wednesday. The city suspended midnight site visits unless a hazard is visible from the street. They reminded inspectors that anonymous complaints require verification consistent with policy. They notified staff that costumes are not uniforms. It should not need to be said. It needed to be said. Randall, the real Randall, emailed me twice. The first one said, "I'm sorry for the noise. This isn't how we do our work." The second one said, "There's a separate matter involving a former seasonal inspector. I can't comment, but I want you to know you weren't yelling at a wall." I read that twice because walls don't read. North Cedar's mailers stopped. Their logo came down from the unit in the strip mall. "Notice to vacate" went up in the window. Tate's number started sending a "please leave a message" that didn't beep. Melissa sent a neighborhood blast 2 weeks later. After consultation with the city and our council, we are discontinuing the vendor spotlight series at HOA events, she wrote, which is a delicate way to say we'll stop letting foxes teach us about henhouse safety. Carla got an interview at a clinic 15 minutes closer to home. On her third day, she texted at lunch a photo of a break room plant with a sticky note that said, "Water me on Fridays," and a caption that read, "I think I might, in fact, water things again." We sat on the back steps that night and watched the sky decide. We didn't talk about selling. Mr. Nunez came by 2 months later. He was visiting our old corner because memory is a magnet. He told me he'd sold because he panicked. He'd gotten fines and phone calls, and then a man at his door saying, "You don't need this at your age." I showed him the maple. We stood under it like teenagers and didn't say wisdom we hadn't earned. I told him we were trying to get some of the heat out of the system. He patted my shoulder and said, "You're still young enough to think systems care." He smiled, kind. I built a spreadsheet of the last year on our block, who left, who arrived, what they paid, what they fixed. I sent it to Sheila with a note that said, "If you need a citizen sidekick who likes tables, I'm on your porch with coffee." She didn't need a sidekick, she did need a witness. I got a thank you letter from the city that said, "We're making updates. That's bureaucrat for we found a leak." Carla and I ripped the budget sheets off the fridge and started fresh. 3 columns this time: savings, house, fun. The last one had one line: Saturday mornings. We started going to the farmer's market again. We bought blueberries instead of adrenaline. I fixed the squeaky cabinet hinge because suddenly I wanted to. The last time I saw Tate, he was walking fast down Nicolette pretending his phone was a future he could still sell. He looked smaller without our rooms. He looked like a man who'd lost his favorite mirror. If you want a blaze of justice at the end, I don't have it. The city announced a disciplinary action against a seasonal employee for misuse of credentials and conduct unbecoming. No handcuffs, no press conference. The HOA had elections and Melissa lost by 12 votes. Dan retired from flipping burgers in public. A new board wrote a policy about vendors and political neutrality and what you can't do with mailers. It's dry, it's beautiful. Our fence is still crooked. I like it that way. It reminds me we won by going slow. If there's a moral I can say without rolling my eyes, it's this: when somebody hands you panic on official letterhead, check the font. Predators love paperwork. So does protection. Pick your side and learn your paragraphs. Dignity is not rage. It's a trail of receipts long enough that when you put your head on a pillow, the night can't argue. 2 questions for you. If your home started receiving anonymous punishment dressed as help, would you move or would you turn your fear into something the system has to read? And what's one boring rule you could obey fiercely, from documenting to voting to showing up at a meeting, that would make your block harder to steal? Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this one.